When I first started driving around and I first started the page, there was a house here, a house there, and now it's insane.
A booming housing market transforming one San Diego community and what it means for homeowners and renters.
Spend all day long, every day, trying to ask people to help us in various ways.
Answering the call to help, the USS Midway Foundation steps up in a big way.
There was a time at our Y that we would get all the hand-me-down equipment from other YMCAs, and also the Chargers gave us their old treadmills after they beat up on them.
A complete head-to-toe makeover for the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA. How it helps kids reach their full potential. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The man who claims to be the first dreamer to be deported may be deported again. Juan Manuel Montes was detained by Border Patrol agents Monday night in Calexico while trying to enter the U.S. He was deported by the Trump administration in February after a similar border crossing. Montes had lived in the U.S. since he was 9 years old. A lawsuit against the federal government was later dropped. Montes claims he should be protected under DACA. President Donald Trump has ordered the DACA program to end by March. Now members of his own party are working to pass a law to keep it going. Republicans in the House of Representatives spoke out today, saying they'll support a plan to extend DACA protections.
Our interest here is moving as quickly as possible. We would like to get a solution by the end of the year. Like we said, there are a lot of people at risk even today. And so we think it's incumbent upon us to move as quickly as possible.
When the bill comes to the floor, whatever bill it is, I predict it'll have a huge vote with well over 300 votes to send this bill to the Senate.
I also hear from many business people in my community how important it is. So it's not just a humanitarian issue, it's a military issue, it's an economic issue, it's an American issue. So let's get the job done.
Any DACA bill that emerges might not be voted on until next year. GOP leaders are currently focused on a tax overhaul push and a year-end spending bill. Some immigrants risk their lives coming into the U.S., often through the desert. For those who have died, recovering and identifying the remains is a challenge. But as Brian Skoloff reports, a breakthrough in FBI technology is helping families get closure.
This is typical of what we get out of the desert.
If someone dies in the Arizona desert, it could be months or years before the remains are found. Hundreds of those bodies end up here at the Pima County Medical Examiner's office, some just skeletons. Many of the John Does are immigrants who crossed the U.S.-Mexico border illegally and died in Arizona's sprawling and unforgiving Sonoran desert. It's forensic anthropologist Dr. Bruce Anderson's job to find names for the nameless.
If I was missing, or if one of my loved ones was missing in a of the migrant issue, in a far-off place, I'd want to think that that government was doing everything they could to figure out who that person was, to notify me.
I mean, most people can recognize that's a fingerprint.
Notifications that are now coming by the dozen since the FBI began earlier this year using new fingerprint technology to help agencies across the country identify the dead dating back decades. Since launching the effort, the FBI has identified more than 200 people, about 40% of them in Arizona, including this man from Mexico whose body was found in the desert in 1995.
The standard fingerprint searching system for identity searches all 10 fingers, whereas our system allows us to search one finger at a time. And using this new algorithm that's highly improved over old systems and a much larger database, we now have the capability to search more difficult prints through the system and affect identifications that in previous attempts, even previous searches through databases may not have yielded.
It took 34 years for James Downey to learn the fate of his older brother John, who vanished in 1983. The FBI this summer identified his remains as those of a man found in Iowa several decades ago.
The FBI said that he was beaten to death and just chucked out in the field. It was kind of tough to, hear. And, yeah, but the years had passed, so.
These are paper charts of paper records of deceased individuals from 1965 to about 1991.
For Anderson, closing even one of about 1,000 cases is more than just paperwork.
I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather, I'm a son, I'm a brother. So both professionally and personally, it's satisfying to give families answers.
Answers that bring heartache, but also a sense of closure. Brian Skoloff, Associated Press, Tucson, Arizona.
A breakthrough for California's air quality under the cap-and-trade program. New numbers from the California Air Resources Board show emissions fell 5% in 2016. Prior years showed reductions of less than 1%. The cap-and-trade program, recently extended by Governor Jerry Brown, requires some industrial companies to buy a permit to release emissions. The Air Resources Board expects to reach its long-term emission goals for 2020 and 2030. Another effort to reduce pollution, California's plastic bag ban is showing an early impact. It's been 1 year since the ban on single-use plastic bags at grocery checkout stands took effect. The State Secretary for Natural Resources says early data shows those bags now make up less than 2% of all littered items, a huge drop. Doctors taking a closer look at how they prescribe opioids is one of the takeaways from a two-day summit happening in San Diego. We talked to Dr. Ronit Lev during the event. She's the chief of emergency medicine at Scripps Mercy Hospital. She says ER doctors are in a tough spot as they re-examine their prescribing patterns.
Imagine someone with a broken bone. They deserve pain medicines. Someone with a kidney stone, they should get, some pain medications. But the amounts and the combinations with other medications is the problem.
Lev is leading an effort to get local ER doctors to follow a set of voluntary guidelines. These include checking a state database to make sure a person isn't doctor shopping for narcotics and dispensing only a small amount of opioids when necessary. Lev says 10 out of 19 local emergency departments say they've significantly reduced their prescribing since the guidelines were introduced. The U.S. Air Force will launch a full-scale review to find out how critical info on the Texas church shooter never made it to the FBI. The Air Force is now publicly acknowledging it was supposed to notify the FBI about a domestic abuse case that led to Devin Kelley's court-martial. The FBI uses that information for a national database that could have kept Kelley from buying guns. 26 people were killed in Sunday's mass shooting. Military veterans and families in law enforcement will benefit from a new round of grants from the USS Midway Foundation. Nearly $500,000 will go to help local nonprofits. KPBS's Deb Welsh tells us how that money is being spent.
The grants range from $5,000 to $35,000 and will support a wide array of projects and programs.
Midway has been blessed with the opportunity to have some funds available to give out money to those organizations that are aligned with our mission.
Among them, emergency financial assistance provided to military families in crisis, advanced manufacturing training offered to service members transitioning to civilian life, and the purchase of body armor for police officers. The nonprofits receiving grants include the Armed Forces YMCA, the San Diego Police Foundation, USO San Diego, Veterans Village, the SEAL Family Foundation, the San Diego Veterans Day Parade, and Marine Corps Recruit Depot Museum Foundation.
We spend all day long every day trying to ask people to help us in various ways to help give scholarships to kids. And the cost of colleges are going up, and so the more money we can make, the more money we can give to these kids to go to school.
The USS Midway Foundation handed out $250,000 last year and hopes to eventually raise its total giving to $1 million annually. Deb Welsh, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, former state judge Roy Moore, a candidate for Alabama's Senate seat, faces allegation of sexual misconduct. Coming up right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The name and the mission is the same, but just about everything else has changed at the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA. Now, after a 19-month renovation from the ground up, the Y, which has served San Diego since 1943, is open again. I spoke to the executive director about the opportunity to impact more families.
So now we can play t-ball, we can play softball, we can play baseball. If you look here, we have yellow lines embedded in here for soccer, flag football, lacrosse, and field hockey.
Michael Brunker proudly shows off a Major League Baseball field, easily spotted by people entering or leaving the community from the 805.
What does this symbolize, just how much has changed and how much has improved with the Jackie YMCA?
In southeastern San Diego, we know there's so much disproportionality, but what's happened here with a field like this, with a building like that, that's been removed.
The state-of-the-art upgrades continue inside.
There was a time at our Y that we would get all the hand-me-down equipment from other YMCAs, and also the Chargers gave us their old treadmills after they beat up on them. You know, you talk about 300-pound folks jumping up and down on a treadmill. But now what we have here is state-of-the-art everything. You got the TRX, you got the turf, you got the plated weights in this area, and then over around the corner here, you have everything that's cardio and circuit training, with enough equipment where people can get on it and get a good workout from 5:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night.
It took 19 months and $28 million in donations to open this new 45,000 square foot YMCA to the public.
Just to see the joy and, more importantly, the gratitude that they have to see everything that we've just seen here today, the newness of it, the size of it, the scope of it, but to know that something great like this was constructed here in their community is really a special thing.
This YMCA has been in the same location since the 1940s, when Imperial Avenue was simply a dirt road. And leaders tell me, like then, this YMCA is so much more than a gym for the people of this community.
If we could stop the next gang violent act of violence, we want to do that. If we can help the next child graduate high school and go to college and graduate, be the first in their family to do so, we'll do that. And that's what the Y does, not only in southeastern San Diego, but throughout San Diego County and the country.
The Jackie YMCA steps into the new with nods to the past.
But what he did as an icon in terms of civil rights was amazing, long before Martin Luther King.
Brunker says the legacy of Jackie Robinson is in line with the Y's goal to foster youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility.
What I really focus on is Jackie Robinson's face right now and the smile that he has, and how he did this with such dignity and respect, going through some very tough things.
For 20 years, Brunker has pulled from Robinson's story of overcoming obstacles as a way to encourage kids to reach their full potential, and says a Y they can be proud of helps.
We understand the disproportionality that exists in these regions, but this is a great community, and the people here deserve the best, and right now they have the best YMCA that anybody could ever think about.
The Jackie Robinson YMCA currently has about 2,600 members, and operators estimate they can now have the space to serve about 10,000 people. And phase 2 of the renovations include a brand new pool. If you've seen those impeachment ads from California billionaire Tom Steyer, get ready to see even more.
Obstructed justice at the FBI, an indirect violation of the Constitution. He's taken money from foreign governments and threatened to shut down news organizations that report the truth. If that isn't a case for impeaching and removing a dangerous president, then what has our government become?
Steyer announced today he's doubling his spending. The campaign started off with $10 million. Now it will be $20 million. Steyer has received some pushback from Democratic leaders on the impeachment of President Donald Trump. However, he says he's energized by this week's election results in Virginia and elsewhere. 2 new ads are expected in the coming weeks. Qualcomm officials traveling with President Trump in China just closed a major deal. The San Diego-based company will work with a trio of Chinese smartphone makers over a 3-year period. The deal is worth $12 billion. This announcement comes just days after Broadcom, a company based in Singapore, made a $100+ billion bid to take over Qualcomm. California State Treasurer is warning the House Republican tax plan could make it harder to build affordable housing. John Chung was in San Diego this morning for a housing conference. He used it as an opportunity to urge Congress to spare a bond program that helps states fund affordable housing construction.
We're already 1.5 million units short. We need to build 60,000 additional units in regards to deep affordability. More people are not going to be able to call California their home, or if they're going to call it their home, it's going to be that underpass in too many communities of this state or in the riverbeds. We can't do that to our fellow human beings.
The state treasurer says the bond program and the low-income housing tax credit are at risk. Both contribute towards a majority of the affordable housing built in California. San Diego home prices have been rising for years. The effects on lower income communities is pleasing some people, but worrying others. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto tells us how homeowners in San Diego City Heights neighborhood are reacting to the trend.
And it's sort of my little urban farm. We have our chickens.
When Tracy King opens the gate to his rental property in San Diego City Heights neighborhood, you can see he's not kidding. The backyard has a coop in the corner, a vegetable garden, fruit trees, dozens of plants, and scores of flowers, from roses to milkweed.
This is what we call Butterfly Alley. This is our butterfly bench.
He's lived next door since the late 60s and bought this property 2 decades ago as an investment for his kids.
And they would have these huge properties, and they could sell them and go off into the world, with all this money. And my daughter informed me, she says, I'm doing perfectly well without your help. Thank you very much. And so you do what you've got to do.
So the semi-retired fitness instructor put the 2-bedroom Craftsman that he renovated on the market. An offer above asking price came in on the first day, among many others. The deal moved so quickly, the listing real estate broker had to cancel planned open houses. Zillow senior economist Aaron Terrasa says this kind of demand will likely continue in the low-income City Heights community.
So yes, this area has been appreciated quickly and will probably continue to lead the San Diego Metro over the next year.
The online real estate site says home prices in the main zip code in City Heights are projected to increase by nearly 4% over the next year. That's the second highest rate in the county, second to Imperial Beach and tied with Claremont. Homeowner Paul Smith says he's seen this coming for years. He's been documenting building and home renovations on his Facebook page called Transforming City Heights. He says he initially started it to alert people that changes were coming.
When I first started driving around and I first started the page, there was a house here, a house there, and now it's insane.
Driving around the neighborhood, he points out homes that are for sale, sold, or under renovation quicker than you can turn your head.
This house just had a second story put on it. This house with the for sale sign, here's another house that's getting gutted. That house has been redone, that house has been worked on. So this house recently got purchased. This house right over here, that house is sold. That got redone because there's houses over there that are getting constructed right now. That house right there is tented. This house has been worked on recently. That house has been redone. You see that house is for sale. That one's pending over $400. It's small.
As a property owner and new father to 2 young girls, he says he's pleased to see what he considers positive changes in a neighborhood that has been stigmatized as a crime and gang-infested area. He says he's heard from other homeowners who agree, but says some commenting on the Facebook page criticize the changes as gentrification. Zillow economist Terrasa says he wonders how the boom will impact residents in City Heights, where census estimates show 70% are renters.
The really interesting question for me is, how are they adapting? What are the strategies? Are they moving in or sharing expenses with family members? Are they considering moving away?
Smith says he feels he's contributing to the neighborhood by fixing up a rundown home, which he lived in for years.
The toilets would overflow. That was a nice mess. They overflowed to the back because they did an illegal toilet out there. That had to all get ripped out. The electric in the house was outdated, and so it was a fire hazard. There were so many problems. I can't even begin. Plus the house was cold because there was no insulation in most of the walls.
New lock. Never locked before. It's going to be locked eventually.
At the urban farm, King says he'll lock the gate connecting the 2 properties as soon as the sale closes. He says it may be difficult watching others care for the yard he built, but he's excited for their future.
It's almost like I've been preparing it for somebody else to take it and have a nice. And this is this buyer's first home, and she and her husband are going to be starting a family here.
When King and his wife first moved into their home next door 4 decades ago, they too planned to start a family. An elderly couple rented them the place for $85 a month, and they eventually bought it. Taryn Minto, KPBS News.
KPBS will continue to follow how the City Heights housing market is impacting people who live there. Tell us how it's affecting you by contacting reporter Taryn Minto at tminto@kpbs.org. For many of us, a 3-day holiday weekend starts tomorrow. Erin Calandra has a look at what we can expect from weather.
Hello, hopefully everybody had a nice day out here today. Our weather was certainly nice, and it's going to stay like this for the next couple of days. Things are pretty quiet around here. Taking a look across the region, we don't see anything going on. To the north, we certainly do have some wet weather. We have some very cool air coming down, and that's keeping the far northwest a bit cold, and we're even seeing some snow in areas. It's not going to reach us, and we're really going to have zero impact because of that. So for tonight, 60 degrees. Some clouds will be around, but they'll break up, so we'll have sunshine throughout the day. Oceanside, our low 52, Poway 56, San Diego 60 degrees, Ramona 49, and Alpine 49 degrees for our lows. Friday, a nice day. Very pleasant here in the southwest. Again, we will see snow in the mountains, some rain elsewhere to the north of us, but here it's just a beautiful sunny day ahead of us. Oceanside 70 degrees, Poway 74, San Diego 69 degrees. These are right around average temperatures. Ramona 70 and Alpine 69. Mount Laguna 61, Borrego Springs still in the 80s. Taking a look at the bigger picture here, we do have this kind of wavy jet stream going on. So that means some cooler air coming down into the Midwest. Some snow is expected. It's really cold in the Northeast, but all across the South for this weekend, it's going to be pretty nice and warm for most people. For us along the coast the next 5 days, plenty of sunshine, temperatures in those low 70s for the next several days. Inland, we're in the mid to upper 70s. Again, it's going to be sunny and gorgeous. In the mountains, that's the cool spot. We're in those low 60s. And again, lots of sunshine, so very comfortable conditions there. And in the deserts, gorgeous. Temperatures in the 80s all week long with, again, beautiful sunshine. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
A long weekend for a lot of kids means some time playing video games. But at one school in New Jersey, it's one of the tools used to build tech skills and confidence for students with disabilities. Lauren Wanko has the story.
During a math lesson at New Road School of Parlin, students play video games created by other kids.
We're helping kids improve on their grades so they can do better in school, but then eventually later in life, they're going to have knowledge to be able to get past everything else.
New Road is a private school for students with disabilities. On this day, 6th graders Daniel Rohr and Aiden McGovern watch for the first time as students learn while playing their games. The boys are part of Millstone Township Middle School's Future Problem Solvers Club.
We want to make education a way in which kids can actually look into the problems that exist in their community and say, hey, I may be 11, 12, 13 years old, but what can I do to make a difference?
The kids thought of all sorts of ideas.
We live in a town where there's a lot of deer crossing the road, so we tried to think of a way to stop that. But overall, this was our best idea.
Aiden and Daniel are part of a club that includes these Millstone Township middle schoolers too. Together, they built original video games and created others using educational gaming websites, says co-advisor Kevin Norris.
Our goal was to make supplemental material that the kids can use outside of the classroom when they're at home to help them study and reinforce what they're learning.
New Road students completed a survey on how they learn best, while teachers provided Millstone students the topics they were discussing in class. The club members used that information to create the games. So far, the Millstone students have created 7 different video games in 3 different subjects: Earth Science, Social Studies, which covers famous historical figures, and math, which focuses on basic addition, subtraction, and multiplication. The middle school students created the game questions and answer options.
The questions were mainly focused around grade level, so what we would have learned in that grade, we kind of used that and tried to push them further than they could have gone.
For Aiden, the project is personal. His sister Molly attends New Road.
It's really fun, and it's really interesting getting to know how these kids get to learn so fast.
Molly mentors other students as they play the video games.
I love helping them learn. I just love seeing their smiling faces every day.
We're hoping that by doing this, it'll get the best out of them so then they will embrace Education.
Also, it's just great to see them, like, they might be struggling a little bit, but then they'll, like, start excelling and they feel great about it.
Our students also have problems sometimes with attention span, so looking for various programs that could address those needs. And because of technology, which is the way of the future, it's engaging to our students. It's able to hold their attention, and it's what the typical population does. So that is where our children are responding, and we're seeing gains in their academic skills.
These New Road teachers use the video games in their classrooms weekly.
I think it makes it more fun for the students. I think they motivates them a lot more to want to learn.
What's the benefit of this? It's repetition, so the concepts help them retain the information better.
These middle schoolers have a lot more work ahead of them. They're in the process of creating new video games and an educational video that they happen to star in. In Parlin, I'm Lauren Wonko, NJTV News.
Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Coming up on Morning Edition, Governor Jerry Brown on a climate change mission in Europe. Just how far can he wade into international diplomacy? And on Midday Edition, reacting to California's sanctuary state law, Immigration and Customs Enforcement weighs in. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/Evening Edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.